most cases is called the hippocampus, and that deals mainly with recently learned information. So when people are repeating themselves a lot, or that our long-term memory stays intact for a lot longer, but the recently learned information is kind of the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. Now there are other dementias as well. Alzheimer's disease is only one type of dementia, and people really don't realize that it is dementia. And there are 10
dementia meaning what?
Dementia is, thank you for asking, it is the cluster of symptoms that are occurring, and Alzheimer's is the cause. So there are lots of different diseases that cause dementia. Alzheimer's is the most common, and there are diseases such as vascular disease that eventually can cause dementia and have multi-infarct, little mini strokes in the brain that cause dementia as well. And other diseases you might never have heard of, Lewy body dementia and Creutzfeldt-Jakob dementia. Lots of strange words. Yeah. Mostly named after doctors who have figured out.
Well, nobody ever heard of these things, but somebody told me that the doctors are very, very basically ignorant about what really Alzheimer's is, what causes it, what it's all about. They can spot some signs of it, they say, with X-rays in the brain.
We don't know what causes it, but doctors have become very adept at diagnosing it. So it's important to get to the doctor if you're seeing signs. Changes in behavior, like someone who used to be able to bake very well, if they can't bake, cookies anymore like they used to, or driving a car, strange little accidents here and there, hopefully not, injurious accidents, and things that really changes are the most important.
Well, I have a dear relative who has it, and one of the signs, as you pointed out, is cooking. She was making Chinese, was good at it. She didn't put any ginger, any garlic in it. I said, well, where's that? Oh, gee, Hey, couple of calls. You want to call?
Certainly.
Hey, good morning, caller. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning, Reed. How are you?
Good morning, madam. What's up?
My question is, which age does Alzheimer's usually come on? I mean, can you get it as young as, like 4, or does it come on like when you're 65?
The youngest I've heard of is 28. The average,
very rare, though.
It's very rare, yeah. But I have known people who are in their 30s and 40s. That's called young onset Alzheimer's. The average age is, in the 60s. The statistic is 1 in 8 at 65, and our risk doubles every 5 years after that. But about 10% of people who have Alzheimer's are younger than 65.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you,
Thanks
madam.
for calling.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. There's no cure for it, though.
There is no cure. It's a very sad disease, and that, what you had said in the beginning, that many other diseases, are just as important, but they get far more attention from our National Institutes of Health and from Congress to allocate funding for research for these diseases. Alzheimer's is the 6th leading cause of death. People don't realize that it is a fatal disease, and of the top 10 causes of death, it is the least funded. And of the 10 causes of death, it is the only one that has been growing, whereas the others in the top 10 have been declining. And it is, the least funded, but has really been growing. And the more people that we get, the baby boomers are aging at this point, so we're really in for an epidemic, unfortunately.
And diabetes, my God.
And
Between the two of them, we're going to be all of us in hospitals.
There has been now some link between diabetes and Alzheimer's disease in the news, but again, they're very unclear of what exactly is causing the disease.
My hand keeps showing up here. We're with Jennifer Baranpt. Now, Jen is a specialist in Alzheimer's. She works for the advocacy department of the Alzheimer's Association, and she is quite cognizant about what's going on. Now, we had some other questions. One of the common stories you hear is that Alzheimer's really is not a disease, doesn't exist. When they've got something that has to do with dementia, they bunch it together and just say, well, it's Alzheimer's. Quite the opposite from what you were telling us, right?
Well, you know, there is just a lot of confusion about what is Alzheimer's and what is dementia. I hear on a daily basis, you know, oh no, she doesn't have Alzheimer's, she has dementia, or she hasn't gotten to Alzheimer's yet. And really, it's, you know, I think people think it's kind of a spectrum or something. And really, the cluster of symptoms, difficulty with tasks of everyday life, difficulty with thinking, cognition, memory, these are all things that are indicating that there's a problem, that there's a symptom going on. And the symptoms are dementia, and then we have to figure out what the cause is. So most times it's Alzheimer's disease, and people don't realize that.
Got another phone call? You want to take one?
Certainly.
We'll take one every once in a while.
Okay.
I want to hear you, though. Okay, good morning, caller. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning. I was wondering, is there anything that you can do once you learn that someone has Alzheimer's as far as nutrition, exercise, medicine? How does that work?
There are a certain number of medicines that can help with the symptoms of the illness that the doctor will prescribe. They are not a cure. I think of them kind of as a cold medicine. When we have a cold and we take cold medicine, that helps with our symptoms, but it doesn't cure our cold. And so with Alzheimer's disease, the medicines are helpful with the symptoms for a period of time, and they don't actually cure the disease. And certainly, you know, the things that we do, keeping active and exercising and eating healthfully, are helpful. Unfortunately, still, there is no cure for the disease, but everything that we can do to maintain a quality of life and to really prolong the period of time that a person is in the early stages of the disease is as much as possible, that would be helpful.
Okay, caller, thank you. Basically, there's nothing you can do about it. It just goes on. And there is the snake oil. I consider snake oil these various medications you can take that are supposedly slow it down. But there's no way to tell because there's no baseline. So you just give it to them and you pay them $40 a pop for a prescription for something that has a promise here that is not tested or testable. There's no way to tell.
Well, they have tested it and shown that the symptoms, you know, for the people who have tested, who have been in the research studies, the symptoms of the disease are lessened by the medications. In some people, it's not going to show as much. In some people, it's just kind of keeping people on an even scale for a little bit longer rather than having a little bit more of a decline. But you're right, it's hard to tell.
There's no way to tell, though.
Yeah.
You say, well, we slowed it down. We can test that. We can prove that. How can you prove it? Because if you hadn't had it, where would they be? You don't know.
In individuals, we can't tell. But in a large group, I guess they can, you know, extrapolate the numbers of, you know, this number of people had fewer symptoms who took the medications.
Well, let's hope they come up with something that really works. We need that magic bullet, I think. No research, though. They're not doing any serious research. Nobody seems to care. In the Congress, of course. Well, they'll fund the Congress will fund these huge programs for the ICBMs and everything, but they won't fund the peanuts really for Alzheimer's. How many people have it now? I heard anywhere between 5 and 8 million people.
That is, and it's hard to tell. And actually, I just heard a number that about 50% of people who have it don't even realize that they have it yet. So there's a lot of stigma with this illness. People are afraid to tell people that they have a problem with thinking, and it feels like, you know, you're less of a person. No one's going to listen to you if you have a disease that's making you have trouble thinking and remembering. And really, it's really important to get a diagnosis, to know exactly what's happening, not only because maybe your children, you know, will have a better idea of what's happening, but also because it could be something else. There are vitamin deficiencies, thyroid conditions, depression, and other medication interactions and things like that that can cause symptoms that look like dementia.
Or just old age. As you get older, you do forget.
There is such a thing
You become forgetful.
normal forgetting, certainly. But the forgetting that happens with Alzheimer's disease is definitely serious and gets worse over time.
Very serious. You forget your children's name, you're in trouble. And things like that.
It's very sad.
Yeah. And it advances. It's like people ask me how my friend is doing, and I tell her it's like the Mississippi River. It only flows south. It never gets better. Never gets better. I had a friend who, as you pointed out, the thing that goes with a forgetting disease, you're embarrassed by it. You don't want to tell people about it, and his doctor told him that his wife had Alzheimer's, and he was so aggravated about it. He said she doesn't have Alzheimer's, she has a little memory problem and so forth. And he got so aggravated about it, he quit the doctor, changed doctors. He said he didn't want to hear the word Alzheimer's.
Shooting the messenger there.
Shooting the messenger, right.
And you know, there is, it's important to let people know what's going on, to ask for help, because caregivers who have, who are the primary caregivers of an individual with Alzheimer's disease have a high rate of depression and actually, developing physical illnesses. It takes a lot of energy to take care of a person with this disease. So we see a lot of caregivers neglecting their own health. It's important to reach out to the community to try to find help, whether it's someone to sit with the person that you're caring for an afternoon here and there, to go have a little bit of relaxation, go to a restaurant or go to the gym or take a walk or take a nap. We do have a lot of support groups and education programs at our organization, and we serve the 8 counties of Western New York. We're a national organization, and we're one chapter of that organization. And we have a lot of programs. An 800 number is our helpline, 1-800-272-3900. And people can call that 24 hours a day, in the middle of the night, on a Saturday night, if you're having trouble caring for an individual with this disease, because they call it the 36-hour day. It is difficult to care for someone with this disease because it's an adult who really thinks that they are fine and that they don't need you to babysit them, and it's they can become resentful of having you watch everything that they're doing. So people in the disease has causes behavioral changes that can be difficult to care for, and so the more we know about the disease, the easier it can be. And getting help, whether it's a support group or having help in the home, is very important. Yeah,
well, there's a lot to it. Again, somebody with advanced Alzheimer's cannot care for themselves in any way. I mean, the person I know won't eat unless I give them food. You have to put the food in front of them. And he has a problem talking, can't talk, and cannot really cognate when you say something to him. So it's a 24/7 and more job taking care of this person. It can be pretty depressive, not being able to talk to them all day long. You sit all by yourself in silence.
Yes, that's true. It is depressing. It's depressing. It's a grieving process to watch someone you love have a decline like this.
Especially when they're brilliant originally.
It's true, yeah.
This person was valedictorian of their class, was the vice president of a very large research firm in New York City, most brilliant person I've ever met, and was a championship bridge player, read 3 books a week, religiously went to the library, and nothing. It's all gone. It's just all gone. And it breaks your heart when you see that happen. Fortunately, this person has no violence. It's still a very tender, sweet, loving person. It's rough on the caretaker, believe me, and usually it devolves on the daughter or the spouse, who may himself be kind of out of it, partly anyway, at a later age. We're with Jennifer Baranpt. We're talking just briefly on Alzheimer's. If you have a question or you want to jump in, the number is 753-JACK, or 753-5225. And your calls will all be answered, and you will be given a $5 bill in script for the beautiful little restaurant at the foot of the hill in Mayville, the Lakeview. Also, they have a fish restaurant next door to that, which is also available, called the Docks, but I think they just changed the name recently. I forget what the name is. anybody can remember, call me and tell me. And hello, Dave Newell and Company. I think it's Valentino's. Thank you, caller. That's what. I'll give you one. Tell you what. You can have your lunch before you go.
Oh, thank you.
With Jennifer Baranpt talking about Alzheimer's. Okay, now what would you, if you were to tell somebody, here's what to do.